Can't sleep, huh?
Yeah, me neither. Come here. I want to talk to you.
It was my voice who left.
Hey, look at me.
The story you are telling of a woman who survived trauma and built herself back up. Do you feel like you are speaking in the name of a whole generation of women?
Absolutely. Yeah, when you reduce her particular trauma to the details of her life, you kind of step away from the fact that there are small and large and violent, sometimes kind of subliminal diminishments that we all experience. Just the inundation of the imagery that consumes us, the media, fashion, the stories that built us, really. If you kind of examine the movies that we all grew up on, if you examine the ways in which we kind of like twist ourselves into pretzels in order to be palatable for people, in order to come across, there are just constant betrayals. And so when I read this book, the way that she sort of reorients her life into her own words, it's so inspiring. The way that she kind of gives voice to how hard it is to find voice. It feels like such an invitation. And so I thought, like, what an incredible opportunity to make a movie, because I think the book has overtly cinematic terms. Because I just think the movie's about all of us, and the book is very much about her, but she invites you to stick your whole body and your whole life into it. And so I thought maybe that should be something we could all like sit in a big dark room and do together.
How did you go about casting? I must admit that especially children are great on screen. Yeah. So how did you choose them?
We just got so lucky. I mean, making a movie is a series of fall on your face, get back up, and realize that scar was actually better than your unmarred face. Like you know, having to shoot this movie in Latvia, having to hire a lot of local actors who were incredible. There was a kind of like freshness and eagerness and hunger that was really evident in all of the kids that came to help us out. And it's hard material, but there was like this innate understanding, because these stories start happening to us at very young ages. You know, you're dealing with like difficult material, and little kids that, you know, maybe having like direct conversations isn't necessarily how to get the job done, but there is like this innate atmospheric understanding. Like, these girls knew exactly why they were there and what they were saying and what they were doing. And even if you take the kind of horrific details out of it, they all kind of understood, like, so she feels bad, she feels like she can't talk, she feels unlistened to, she feels scared. It's like, yeah. And they were like, they just innately understood what those feelings were. And they have great parents and incredibly supportive, like, you know, people around them. But there's just a certain female experience that starts at birth that these kids were able to shove into the movie in a way that was less articulate and sort of like less retrospective than all of our perspectives as adult filmmakers trying to remember what it was like to feel small. Yeah, I mean, those kids were incredible. We got so lucky with all of them.
Did you give your actors a lot of freedom? What kind of director you are?
Sometimes I have to tie my hands behind my back to be like a little bit less like in control. You would be doing such a disservice to your own movie if you didn't put it in the hands of hungry artists. You know, I wrote this movie over 8 years and ultimately had a pretty chaotic production schedule. And not just because it was a small budget and because we shot in Latvia and not the Pacific Northwest, and so we had to be very particular about our perspective and what we looked at. And it's almost like it was like predestined and spiritually kind of attacked. Like, the movie was just under attack. And so it has this wherewithal. And I think it starts with mutual trust. And I think if you were going to ask me like what type of director I am, I would say somebody who wants to share. I don't want to do anything alone. All of my ideas become better when they're expressed by other people.
Did you learn a lot from the directors you worked with, like Kelly Reichardt, Oliver Assayas, or Pablo Larraín, and many others?
Yeah. You know, they all work the same way. Those are, I mean, those are the kind of most like esteemy, prestige directors that I've worked with. But that's for a good reason. That's because they truly are just like put on this earth to bring people together and find words for things, find pictures for things, let image making kind of set us free. And I know that sounds cheesy, but it's true. You see a certain picture, and it can just, you know, introduce you to yourself, and kind of expand your world. And yeah, those three people are, I mean, they were put here to do what they do. I mean, it's like impossible not to follow them off cliffs. I would do anything for those people, and that's the right feeling to have on a movie set.
Let's talk about the editing process. You begin your film in a very experimental way, like from the 70s or 80s, with these little fragments, scattered memories, but you end your film in a very different way, classical way. As Lidia matures, the film becomes more structured. So
have you ever heard me say that? Because I have literally been saying that. That is like the coolest. The fact that you're saying this to me is very satisfying, because I literally like that was the goal. Yeah.
Okay, but this is also challenging for the viewers, because the first quarter of minutes is the most challenging. So how did you find a way for your viewer through the film?
Yes, in the beginning of the movie, like, you don't quite understand that what you're receiving is not objective. I mean, it is a purely recollected and kind of very distant memory. And we're presenting kind of very central metaphors really early on to try and let people know that this is not the three-act structure kind of, you know, cradle to the grave biopic that you might expect in an adapted memoir. The movie is about writing. The movie is about restructure, iteration, and some of her early memories are buried very, very deeply in her body, and so the excavation requires some interaction. I'm not doing it for you. You have to strive to understand. You have to. It's almost like you have to squint your eyes to understand this like limping body of a movie, because, you know, those memories are distant. And so as she gets older and the memories are closer to the surface, and she becomes somebody who understands herself and has really found her process and understood that writing is salvation for her, the writing becomes clear, and she becomes a teacher, and she becomes somebody who Lidia is, who is she's a professor, she's a doctor, she's a mother to a lot of people. She's a chosen teacher for a lot of people, myself included. And so by the end, the composition, the way that it stands up feels earned and maternal, and you know, something a little bit easier to grasp. And then all of a sudden her voiceover is no longer an internal utterance. It's addressing you directly. I mean, she speaks to the audience directly by the end of the movie. She gives very clear advice.
Yeah, and she says there is no one else to save you. So do you believe we can change our lives?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's like, without that belief, I mean, we would succumb to the world that we live in, which is, you know, I don't want to speak like so in such sort of general black and white terms, but you have to fight to find self. It is an effortful process, or you know, succumb to expectation, and those expectations are sick. So.
Yeah, so let's fight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When there are no words for the pain, let your imagination change what you know to plan. to swim to a self.